Has this school year made you feel so overwhelmed that you don't even know where to start when it comes to seeking solutions for your teacher burnout? Has this year made you feel like you don't know if this career is for you anymore, yet you still love it and you don't even know if you want to find a new one in the first place? And is this making you feel like you are ready for a huge transformation? You want to see a huge change in your life, but you've been hesitant for some reason? And alongside of that, has this podcast that you've been listening to or watching, has it been helping you to stop feeling sorry for yourself? Has this podcast helped you to look at the things that you can change? And finally, has this podcast helped you to dive deep within yourself and to decide that you have the drive to take action in order to make teaching the career you've always wanted it to be? In this episode, I'm going to share with you 3 big ways that you can see big transformation in your teaching and your personal life, as well as the lives of your other teacher friends who you know and love. Let's dive into this episode. I'm not sure how many of you know my story, but back in 2016, I bought the domain of burnedinteacher.com and started blogging about my transformation from burned out, miserable teacher to someone who considered herself to be burned in, right? That's what Burned In Teacher is all about. I shared reflections about books I was reading, like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. I shared about people who I was bringing into my life and who I was focusing on as huge, impactful supports in my life where I used to have none, and the changes that I was making in order to live the happiest, most fulfilled career in life that I possibly could. And then in 2018, because I have to admit, writing is not my favorite pastime, I started the Burn In Teacher podcast so that I could have more of a conversation with all of you. I wanted you all to know that you're not alone when you're struggling. I wanted you all to know that there is another option for you other than crying in your car every day to and from school like I was. And mostly, I wanted you to know that there was hope for you. I wanted you to know that you could live differently. I wanted you all to know that if I could crawl out of teacher burnout with as low as I was, that you could too. And over the past 6 years, the podcast has been running. I have received very positive feedback about the podcast and some amazing reviews that have brought me to tears. Let me share some of them with you right now. I've been listening to Amber's podcast for the past couple of years, and her words of wisdom and tools have helped me so much. I always end each episode thinking about strategies or mindset shifts to recover and stay out of burnout. I have a lot of podcasts that I follow, but hers is the only one that I'm sure to listen to weekly, as I feel like I'm listening to a friend who's full of such wisdom and would love to teach with her. Amber is so vulnerable, authentic, and relatable as she teaches in a primary classroom, as do I. And I have also read her book, Hacking Teacher Burnout, twice. I love that, by the way. The second time to do the book study during the summer podcast and to use her study guide. I'm so thankful to have found Amber's podcast and her inspiration. This one says, I'm not kidding with the title. The title was life-changing, by the way. Amber's podcast has helped me so much. I'm 10 years into my teaching career, and this past year, I have had such terrible burnout. My principal even suggested I take time off teaching to recover, but that just wasn't what I wanted or what I could afford. I found Amber's podcast when searching for podcasts about teacher burnout. As soon as I started listening, it felt like being wrapped in a great big hug of support and understanding. I love that. I can't recommend her podcast and her book enough. I've listened to so many episodes now, and it's already helped my mindset and mental health so much. Thank you, Amber. You are so welcome. And finally, this one says, loving Burned In Teacher. I've been listening for 1.5 years. I was in a stupor and really burned out and burned into the ground. A story for another time, but this podcast helped me to stop feeling sorry for myself. I looked at the things I could change and made me dig deep within myself to decide if I had the drive anymore. It's a constant struggle, but the topics that Amber presents are some I've wondered about, needed information on, and some I didn't even consider. Thank you so much for sharing this out into the world, Amber. Anyone questioning their decision to teach can be empowered with information from the podcast to make that change for themselves. You will take away something from each episode. Enjoy and discover along with the rest of us. It has been such an honor for me to be part of thousands of teachers' journeys over the last few years, and I have loved every single minute of being behind the mic. Since September of 2018, I have released over 200 episodes of the podcast, which have been downloaded more than 200,000 times. I am so incredibly grateful for every single listen and to each and every one of you. Being a part of even a sliver of your transformation makes the hundreds of hours that this podcast takes to run worth it. And listening to this podcast each week is guaranteed to help you if you truly want the help. But what I've come to realize in the last few months is that the podcast isn't the way to make the biggest changes in our lives as teachers and in our personal lives outside of that, right? And this school year is about taking big steps, not just for you, but for me. And the best way that I can make the biggest impact this season in this school year right now, because as hard as I've worked to help as many teachers as I possibly can to rise above their burnout and use it as an opportunity to grow through this podcast, the burnout pandemic continues to spread. Am I giving up hope? No, absolutely not. Am I giving up on you? No way. Never would I ever do that. But what I am going to do for now is I am going to pause the podcast so that I can focus my very limited time and energy after my long days of teaching on impacting more teachers and their students in ways that you may or may not have heard of. And I wanted to use this episode to make sure that you are fully aware of the many other ways that you can make the biggest impact on yourself, your students, your fellow teachers, your administrators, and your career. The first way that you can help me to make a bigger impact and also to see a bigger impact in your school is to find ways to get me booked for speaking at your school or at a regional or state or national education conference. So if you've ever enjoyed the podcast, if you've ever found it helpful, it would mean the world to me if you would mention me to your administration, friends of administration, event planners, so that I can get booked to come to your school or an upcoming conference so I can begin to fill my speaking calendar. You wouldn't be here watching or listening if you didn't believe that teacher burnout is a huge problem. So please help me spread the word. Tell your administrators or event planners to go to burnedinteacher.com/speaking to learn more about my signature talk that focuses on helping teachers to look at burnout as an opportunity for change and growth in their own lives and the system of education that we're all working in. Because when teachers and administration work together to support one another, our students' achievement will grow because we are going to have more capacity to serve them in a more positive and proactive way. The second way to make the biggest impact on your career in education is by enrolling in Burned In Teacher University. I used to offer one-to-one coaching calls and live group coaching when I first started walking people through my 8-step Burned In process. But the people who have had the biggest transformation are the people who have enrolled in the course. So I want to encourage you to put the course on your calendar. Most teachers take the course during the winter months or during the summer months. So I encourage you to decide when you are going to be doing this course, who you're going to do it with, and put it on your calendar for either between December and February or May through July after school is out. So decide, who am I doing this with? When am I going to do it? And get it onto your calendar as a concrete action plan to begin to live your happiest and most fulfilling life inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. You can go to burnedinteacher.com/course to learn more about that. And lastly, if you don't have time to go through the course until January or next May, but you still want me in your ears, then I encourage you to read my book, Hacking Teacher Burnout. Whether it's 10 pages a day, 10 pages a week, a page is a step forward. And you may or may not know this, but the book study series that I hosted over the summer is still live on the podcast. So you and I can walk through the book step by step, page by page together. So if you go to burnedinteacher.com/book study, I will tell you exactly what steps you can take to go through a little mini book study by yourself or with your teacher bestie anytime you want to start. And if you aren't interested in the book study, then simply go to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com and search for Hacking Teacher Burnout. And you can read the book however and whenever you want to. This is such a big time of incredible challenge in our schools and in our classrooms for multiple reasons. And there is an overwhelming need of support for you, your fellow teachers, and for me and my fellow teachers, as well as our administrators. We're not the only ones going through burnout. And I am so proud of all of you who have been here listening, tuning in for as long as you have. I know some of you are just finding me. I know some of you have been around since the very beginning. And I want to say thank you so much for coming along this journey with me and learning about all of the things that we can do to live our best lives together in the classroom and in our personal lives. I'm so proud of all of you for taking a stand and for helping yourself to move through and to grow through your teacher burnout through listening to this podcast. So, in summary, the 3 ways that you can continue to hear me, to work with me, and to move through your journey along with me so that you can get out of this burnout, stay out of this burnout. And if it does start to creep back, know what you can do about it. There are 3 things you can do. Number 1, go to burnedinteacher.com/speaking, send that link to a friend of an administrator or your favorite administrator, your event planner. Help me come to your school or your local event so you can help me to spread the message to teachers who are not looking for podcasts, who don't know where to start. The second thing you can do is to enroll in Burned In Teacher University. So this is my signature course, walking you through the 8-step Burned In process, talking about time management, boundary setting, finding clarity, setting goals. So many things that I know I needed so badly whenever I was struggling in isolation, and so many things that are helping so many teachers to continue to move forward rather than stay stuck in their burnout. So go to burnedinteacher.com/course to learn more and to enroll today. And of course, if you want me in your ears right now, if you're waiting to take the course until winter or summer, then go to burnedinteacher.com/book study. And I'll tell you step by step what you can do to join the book study, have your own little book study wherever you are in the world, whatever time of year it is. Or if you just want to go to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com, you can get the book and read Hacking Teacher Burnout. All right, everyone, you know what I'm going to say. So say it with me. Take a deep breath because you just took another step to becoming a burned in teacher. Burn on, and I'll see you soon.